My wife secretly married her boss after forging my signature on a $200, $0 property deed. Then she demanded half of the divorce settlement that included our family home, suddenly claiming I was mentally unfit to understand the legal papers. I never thought I'd end up here, sitting in my living room, staring at the divorce papers, feeling like I got hit by a truck. It's kind of funny, really. Life throws these huge curveballs when you're least expecting them. One day, everything's normal, me, my wife Lisa, and our life together. The next, I find out she's been cheating on me for months, married to her boss, and she's been forging my signature on a property deed worth $200, $0. All that time I thought we were solid, maybe even happy. Turns out I was just blind. It started small, really. I'd noticed Lisa acting weird, pulling her phone away when I entered the room, deleting texts, hiding her social media. I brushed it off at first, thinking she was just busy or stressed. But then she started coming home late, smelling of perfume I didn't recognize, and her attitude shifted. She became bitchier, more dismissive. She'd snap at me over nothing, roll her eyes when I tried to talk about our future. The little things added up, but I still didn't want to believe she'd cheat on me. One night I was working late at the office, just trying to get some reports done. I noticed an email notification pop up on her laptop, something about a meeting with her boss, Mark. I didn't think much of it, but then I saw the attachment. It was a photo of her and Mark kissing in a hotel room. My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen, feeling like the world had just shattered beneath my feet. That's when I knew for sure. Lisa had been lying to me all along. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I confronted her. I showed her the email, the photo. Her face went pale for a second, then she started lying, of course. She told me it was just a work thing, that Mark was just a friend, that I was overreacting. She told me I was paranoid, that I didn't understand how women like her and Mark had a special connection. I could see the bullshit in her eyes. She had been sneaking around, hiding her affair, and now she was trying to gaslight me into believing I was crazy. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal I'd never experienced before. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we built, all the trust I thought we had? But what hurt even more was the way she lied, the way she looked at me like I was the problem, like I was the one causing trouble. She's always been good at spinning stories, twisting facts, making herself look innocent. But I knew better now. She was cheating on me with her boss, Mark, and she'd forged my signature on that property deed to cover her tracks. I started digging deeper. I found out she married Mark secretly after forging my signature on a deed for a property I had no idea she was buying. She'd been planning this for months. I also uncovered that she was demanding half of our divorce settlement, including our family home, claiming I was mentally unfit to understand the legal papers she was throwing at me. All of it was a lie, of course. She's always been manipulative, but this was next level. She's trying to take everything I worked for, everything we shared, to make her own life easier with her new married boss. That's when I realized I needed to do something. Sitting there, feeling the sting of betrayal, I knew I couldn't just let her walk away with everything, especially not after what she'd done. I had to fight back, but I also had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went or what I was really up against. All I knew was I was furious, hurt, and more determined than ever to get justice. I didn't want her to get away with this, not without a fight. After that revelation, everything started moving fast. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. My mind kept circling around her lies, her betrayal, the fact that she'd married Mark after forging my signature on that property deed. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see that she was planning to dump me, replace me, and move on with her new life. It was like a punch to the gut every time I thought about it. I felt stupid, betrayed, and furious all at once. I decided I needed proof, something concrete I could use if I decided to fight her in court or just confront her more seriously. I started digging through her emails, her social media, even her bank accounts. I wanted to know if she'd been planning this for months or if it was just a sudden thing. Turns out it was longer than I thought. I found messages between her and Mark from over a year ago, talking about getting rid of me, starting fresh, and making a clean break. That was a slap in the face. All the signs had been there, I just hadn't wanted to see them. One night I followed her. I didn't want to, but I felt like I had no choice. I needed to see where she was going, who she was with. She went to a fancy hotel downtown, checked in alone. I waited outside, watching her come out after a few hours. She looked different, more confident, happier. When she saw me sitting there, she froze for a second, then quickly got into her car and sped off. That confirmed it. She was hiding something, and it wasn't just her affair with Mark. It was her entire life, her lies, her deception. The next day I sat her down. I told her I knew everything about the affair, the marriage, the forged deed, her demands for half of everything. I wanted her to hear it all straight from me. Her reaction was classic Lisa. She started crying, blaming me for everything, saying I was mentally unfit to handle the truth, that I was paranoid, that I didn't understand the pressures she was under. She looked me dead in the eyes and lied, saying she'd never cheated, that Mark was just a business associate, and that I was imagining things, but I knew better. I saw her guilt, her nervous tics, her shifting eyes. She was lying, and I could feel it in my bones. That moment was a turning point. I realized that the woman I thought I knew was gone. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She'd been sneaking around, lying, forging my signature, all to get out of our marriage and into a new life with Mark. The fact that she was demanding half of our assets, including our family home, just added fuel to my anger. She was trying to cheat her way out of everything, and I was the fool who never saw it coming. I started thinking about revenge. Not just emotional revenge, but real, legal, and financial retaliation. I couldn't let her get away with this. She'd ruined my trust, my marriage, and nearly my sense of reality. I wanted her to feel what I felt, betrayed, humiliated, powerless. But I also knew I needed to be smart about it. I couldn't just lash out. I had to plan carefully, gather evidence, and make sure I had the upper hand legally. I wasn't going to let her walk away with my life savings, my house, or my dignity. So I started consulting lawyers, digging into property records, and collecting every shred of proof I could find. I wanted her to realize I was serious. This wasn't going to be a quick divorce and a clean break. No, I was going to fight for what was mine, and I was going to make sure she paid for what she did. I wasn't about to let her manipulate her way out of this mess. That's when I knew I'd be going all in. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about standing up for myself and making her regret ever crossing me. The more I dug, the more I realized just how deep her deception went. I found bank statements showing large deposits from Mark's company, transfers that looked suspiciously like hush money or secret payments. I uncovered emails where Lisa was openly discussing how she'd forge my signature on that property deed, making sure everything looked legal on paper. She'd even hired a lawyer to draft the documents, claiming it was for our future, but I knew better. She planned this from the start. I couldn't believe how smooth she was about it. Lisa always knew how to lie, how to turn things around, how to make herself seem innocent even when she was guilty as hell. That bitch had been playing me for months, maybe longer. The hardest part was realizing she'd been married to her boss, Mark, all this time. They'd kept it secret, probably because she knew I'd flip out if I found out. And I did. I was furious, not just at her, but at myself for being so blind. I decided the next step was confronting her again. I sat her down in the living room, this time with all my evidence laid out on the table. I told her I knew about the marriage, the forged deed, the affair, everything. Her face twisted. She looked stunned for a second, then her bitchy smirk returned. She started spinning her lies again, saying Mark was just a business partner, that I was overreacting, that I was mentally unfit to handle the truth. She played the victim, crying about how I was accusing her of things she didn't do, how I was trying to control her, how she was stressed out and that's why she acted out. I didn't buy any of it. I knew her too well. She's always been a master manipulator. She'd been lying for so long, she didn't even realize how transparent she was now. I felt a mix of rage and sadness. Rage because I'd been betrayed so badly, and sadness because I genuinely loved her once. But that love was dead now. All I had left was the truth, and I was determined to fight for it. The final straw was when she demanded half of everything, our house, our savings, everything we'd built together. She claimed I was mentally unfit to understand the legal papers she was throwing at me, trying to use that as an excuse to get her way. I looked at her and said, "You forged my signature on that deed. You married Mark secretly. You've been lying to me from day one. I don't care what you say. I'm taking you to court and I'm fighting for what's mine." Her face went pale again, but she quickly recovered, trying to act like she was the innocent victim. I realized that I'd reached a point where I couldn't just sit back and be a victim anymore. She'd gone too far and I had to take control. The betrayal was one thing, but now it was about protecting my rights, my property, and my dignity. I started making plans to get a lawyer, to freeze our assets, and to prepare for a nasty legal battle. I knew she'd try to manipulate the system, but I was ready. I'd never been so angry in my life, and I promised myself that she wouldn't get away with destroying everything I cared about. In the days that followed, I felt like I was walking a tightrope. Every time I thought about what she'd done, married her boss, forged my signature, demanded half of everything, I got more motivated to fight. But I also felt a deep sadness, knowing the woman I married was gone, replaced by someone cold, calculating, and willing to lie and cheat her way out of everything. I was hurt, but I was also determined. I knew I had to be smart, patient, and relentless if I wanted to come out of this with some shred of justice. I kept telling myself that this is what she deserved. For lying, for cheating, for trying to steal my life. I was going to make her regret crossing that line. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I knew I wouldn't let her get away with it. Not without paying the price. The legal process moved faster than I expected. I hired a lawyer, someone sharp and experienced in family law and property disputes. From the start, I made it clear that I wanted everything on record, proof of her affair, the forged deed, the marriage to Mark, and her attempts to manipulate the divorce settlement. My lawyer told me to gather every piece of evidence I had, and I did. Emails, bank statements, hotel receipts, everything. I wanted to make sure I had a rock-solid case. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act. She pretended to be innocent, crying crocodile tears, claiming she was misunderstood, that she never meant to hurt me, that Mark was just a business partner, and that I was paranoid and unstable. She insisted she was the victim, that I was overreacting because I couldn't handle her success or her happiness. Was typical Lisa, blame shifting, playing the victim, twisting facts to suit her narrative. But I saw through her now. I knew her game. One day she upped her game. She came home with a new lawyer of her own, claiming she was entitled to half of everything because I was mentally unfit to understand the legal papers. She even tried to gaslight me into thinking I was losing my mind, saying I'd been diagnosed with some mental health issue in the past, which was a flat-out lie. I felt my blood boil. I knew her tactics. She was trying to weaken my case, to make me look unstable so she could get what she wanted easier. I decided to fight fire with fire. I got my own psychiatrist appointment just to get a professional opinion on my mental health. It was a necessary step. I wanted to prove that I was sane, rational, and capable of making decisions. The doctor confirmed I was perfectly fine, that there was no reason to doubt my mental state. That was a huge win for me. Her attempt to paint me as unstable was just another manipulation tactic. Things got more intense when I uncovered that Lisa was secretly transferring money to Mark's accounts, trying to hide assets. I caught wind of it through some banking alerts I had set up. I confronted her about it, and she spun another web of lies, claiming she was just helping Mark with some investments, that it was all legal and above board, and that I was jealous and paranoid. That was the moment I realized she was fully committed to covering her tracks, no matter how illegal or unethical it was. I also learned that she had bought a new house with Mark, completely paid for in cash, under a different name, of course. She was trying to start fresh, erase the past, and leave me with nothing. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I contacted my lawyer again, and we filed for an injunction to freeze her assets and prevent her from selling or transferring anything further. We also started the process of uncovering all her hidden accounts and assets, knowing she'd try to hide as much as possible. Throughout this process, I felt a swirl of emotions: anger, betrayal, frustration, but also determination. I knew I had to stay composed, strategic. Lisa was a master manipulator, but I was learning her tricks. I refused to let her win, not after everything she'd done. I kept reminding myself that I was fighting for my life, my dignity, and the truth. The worst part was seeing how cold she'd become. The woman I married, once caring, warm, and loving, had transformed into someone who lied, cheated, and manipulated her way out of her own life. It hurt to realize I never really knew her, that all those years I thought we had was just a lie she told herself. But I also knew that I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to stand tall, be patient, and let the law do its job. This was a war, and I was determined to come out victorious. The court hearings were a whirlwind. I remember sitting across from Lisa's new lawyer, feeling like I was in a nightmare. She tried to claim I was mentally unfit, insisted I was unstable, and argued that I didn't deserve anything because I was paranoid and delusional. Her lawyer pushed hard, trying to sway the judge with all kinds of emotional arguments. But I had the evidence, emails, bank statements, expert opinions, and I was prepared. The first big blow came when the judge ordered an emergency freeze on all her assets. That included the property she forged my signature on, her bank accounts, and even the new house she bought with Mark. Lisa's face twisted in anger when she realized she couldn't move or hide anything. Her lawyer tried to argue, but the judge wasn't having it. He saw through her bullshit, especially after I presented the proof of her marriage to Mark, the forged deed, and her attempts to hide money. It was clear she'd been trying to cheat her way out of everything, and the court wasn't going to let her. Meanwhile, I was feeling a mixture of relief and anger. Relief because I finally had some control, and anger because I'd been so humiliated and betrayed. I thought about all the times I'd trusted her, all the nights I stayed up worrying about her, and now I knew she'd been lying to me the entire time. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but at least I was finally getting some justice. The most shocking moment came when the judge ordered Lisa to produce all her financial records. She hesitated, then finally handed over her banking info, revealing dozens of hidden accounts and transfers she tried to keep secret. Her attempts to hide assets were so blatant, it made her look even worse. I sat there, watching her squirm, realizing that her whole plan to cheat me out of our assets was collapsing around her. She was losing control, and she hated it. The divorce proceedings dragged on for weeks. Lisa kept trying to spin her lies, claiming I was mentally unfit, that she was the innocent victim, and that I was jealous of her success. But the evidence was too strong. The court saw through her, and I felt a strange sense of validation. I finally felt like I was fighting back, reclaiming what was mine, and exposing her for the manipulative person she really was. In the end, I got most of what I wanted: our family home, the property she forged my signature on, and a large portion of the assets she tried to hide. The court also ordered her to pay me a substantial settlement for the emotional and financial damage she caused. It wasn't just about the money. It was about standing up for myself and making her face the consequences. Looking back, I realized this was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. The betrayal cut deep, and losing the woman I loved was devastating. But I also learned a lot about trust, manipulation, and resilience. I learned that sometimes you have to fight for what's right, even if it means going through hell first. Now, I'm rebuilding my life slowly but surely. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't be fooled again. And if there's one thing I'd tell anyone in a similar situation, it's this: trust your instincts, gather evidence, and don't be afraid to fight for yourself. Because sometimes the truth is the only thing that can set you free. Now, sitting here after everything has settled, I can finally breathe a little easier. The court case is over, and I've managed to reclaim what was stolen from me: my house, my savings, my peace of mind. But honestly, the scars run deep. I keep replaying that moment when I first saw her with Mark, the realization that I'd been played for a fool for so long. It's like a punch to the gut every time I think about how she manipulated me, lied, forged my signature, all to start a new life with her boss. One thing I've learned through all this is how dangerous it can be when someone you trust turns out to be a complete stranger. Lisa was so good at lying, so convincing, that I didn't see the signs until it was almost too late. I was blind because I loved her, because I wanted to believe in our future. But love doesn't mean ignoring the red flags or dismissing your gut feelings. I should have seen it coming, and I regret not paying closer attention. Revenge, I've realized, isn't just about getting even or punishing her. It's about reclaiming your dignity, your life, and making sure the person who betrayed you pays the price, whether that's through legal consequences, loss of trust, or just finally seeing the truth. I don't hold resentment anymore, I hold clarity. I see her for who she is now, a manipulative, selfish person who tried to cheat and steal her way out of her own mistakes. And I'm okay with that. I don't need her approval anymore. The aftermath has been a mix of relief and reflection. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional trauma, and I've slowly begun rebuilding my confidence. I've learned to trust myself again, to listen to my instincts, and to be more cautious about who I let into my life. It's a hard lesson, but one I needed to learn. I also cut ties with her completely. No contact, no regrets. I want nothing to do with her anymore. If there's any advice I could give to someone reading this, it's this: don't ignore the signs. When your gut tells you something off, listen to it. Gather proof if you have to, and don't be afraid to fight for your rights. People can surprise you, sometimes in the worst ways, and you have to be prepared. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. Protect yourself, stand your ground, and never let someone else's lies define your worth. This whole ordeal has changed me forever. I'm not the same person I was before, but I'm stronger now. I've faced my darkest fears and come out the other side. I still have scars, sure, but they remind me of how far I've come. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's also the only thing that can set you free. I hope my story helps someone else see that no matter how deep the betrayal, you can find a way to move forward, stronger, wiser, and ready to start over.